message is titled, Free of Guilt, Free to Live. Free of guilt, free to live. And it's been said with great authority that guilt is something that we hold in our mind that holds us in bondage to the past. And it also is a negative energy that affects our body. Our mind, body, spirit connection is affected by whatever it is that we hold in our mind in a negative way. So when we think about guilt, we think about where did we come up with this? Because guilt is not of God. Anything of a negative nature is never of God. It's always something resident in the mind of mankind, and it's not. There's no foundation to anything of a negative nature, but when we experience it, even temporarily, it makes us all feel very uncomfortable. And most of us with a past religious background are familiar with these words. Excuse me. These words from the book of Numbers 14:18. This is from the book of Numbers 14:18. The Lord is slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but he will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers and the children to the third and fourth generation. Now, since these words have been so universally misunderstood, they have become the cause of one of those race mind beliefs that have held so many people in bondage to guilt and its stepchild's shame. If we look at the words from the book of Numbers with spiritual understanding, we can read the word Lord as the law of our mind. And then we understand the domino effect of guilt. Far too many parents have allowed their own feelings that create guilt to be taught to their children either by themselves or by others. And this is why we read that our children and our children's children and so on continue living with patterns of guilt. Guilt is resident in the race mind and has been throughout history due in part to a lack of understanding that not only does it diminish the joy of living, but it also obstructs us from being receptive to the greater good that is always seeking to be realized by us. There are those who will tell us that if we live in the now, that is in the present moment, that guilt will go away, but this is rarely the case for most people. Like so many other conditions that affect our mind, body, spirit, to know the specific cause of guilt within one's consciousness is not easy to discover. Not easy to discover. Let's look at these words from the great Dr. Joseph Murphy. This is from one of his lectures at the Wilshire Ebell Theater in Los Angeles. He says, the sense of guilt is called a mental dis-ease. Dis-ease means not at ease and is extremely common. In the field of modern psychosomatics and psychiatric medicine, it is clearly pointed out that a deep sense of guilt coupled with frustration lies in back of most of our mental disorders and consequently back at the personality conflicts and bodily diseases as well as business and home conditions. The sense of guilt is abnormal and unnatural, even though it seems to be almost universal. For example, a child is not born with a sense of guilt. The feeling of guilt is imposed from without, usually by parents or teachers and nurses, together with the beliefs of the race mind. Excuse me. All of us know that a baby has no sense of sin, that is self-inflicted nonsense. The baby's first feeling of guilt comes when he senses that mother is angry or displeased with him. His mother is more or less a god to him. Moreover, she represents authority and law. He is dependent upon his mother for food and comfort and love and security. When we were born into the world, we had little or no sense of true value. As children, we knew nothing about man-made religious creeds, dogmas, or customs, or man-made laws, rules, and regulations. In the beginning, the child is like a little animal and is free from inhibitions and does what seems to be to him or her to be natural. But the mother may scold him or her or perhaps punish them by slapping them. She may say to them that they are a bad boy or a bad girl and that God will punish them. The child does not understand and is baffled. Instinctively, the child feels himself cut off from love, from security, from a sense of kindness and a sense of givingness. The child feels that he is punished for something which he doesn't understand, becomes confused, and concludes that he must be bad. He has his first feeling of guilt and of being a sinner, that is, someone who commits self-inflicted nonsense. He is perplexed and proceeds to protect himself. Instinctively, he reacts to his mother's reprimand or the display of anger in different ways. He may become fearful, or he may fight back in his own way by going into a tantrum because of inner conflict. The child's failure to get his desires satisfied, or these are contrary to the wishes of his parents, and later contrary to religious, social, and state laws and customs, deepens his sense of guilt and shame. Instinctively, he wants to do that which seems natural to him, but authority says no. The result is some conflict with authority. That's from the great Dr. Joseph Murphy in a special lecture at the Wilshire Ebell Theater in Los Angeles. Excuse me. So Dr. Murphy gives some glaring examples of how guilt and shame are instilled in the minds of small children. Many of us have experienced some of these, and others have not, but it is a rare person who has not experienced feelings of guilt at some time in their lives. We all have. We've all felt it. We've all experienced it. Even in today's world, where there has been an evolution of psychological reasoning regarding guilt and the healing of emotions, few people seek spiritual healing compared to other methods. Feelings of guilt and shame have caused intelligent and educated people, even spiritual students, to reach out for something outside of themselves to rid the complexities of guilt that they experience. Yet the spiritual solution is always available, even though not always instant, and in a culture that desires instant gratification, it is too often overlooked or sneered at. But anything else is always temporary, never permanent, for the spirit, that is the mind, is always in control of the soul, that is the consciousness. So Annie Ricks Millis tells us there are three dominant types of thought that must be emptied out of our mind in order for us to live free, to rid ourselves of the guilts and the shames and the past thoughts about karma. You know, karma, Jesus tells us that karma is not real. Jesus tells us that as you sow, so shall you reap. In other words, as you sow, so shall you be compensated. So he tells us to let go of the idea of karma, because karma is of the past. And he says that let the dead bury the dead. So whatever happened yesterday or the day before, yes, if we can set it right, set it right. But if we can't, move forward doing that which is greater, doing that which is more of the nature of God expressing itself through you, and just let all those things go. So Annie Ricks Millis tells us there's three great denials, and one is to deny the belief in evil, the belief that there's something other than God. Evil is just live spelled backwards. It's all those thoughts and ideas that people have that diminish life. So just realize that we must let go of that belief, and so we don't draw those things into our life, and then deny the belief in materiality. There's no power but God. So quit thinking that there's power out in the universe and the material things. There's no power in material things, and people, places, or things. The power is always in God. Always in God. As God moves through our consciousness as power and intelligence and spirit, so we let that go. And she says also we must deny the belief in the mortal self, that this is only one life, and that we have to look forward to death. And there are people that even count how many years they have left on the planet. So we want to let go of all that morbidity and clear our mind and let our mind be free. And as our mind is free, all the guilt and the shame and all that nonsense that comes from man-made ideas and concepts of life will disappear from our mind. So we rid ourselves of the guilt. We get free of guilt, and we're free to live. So she says also that we must place these three dominant spiritual ideas in our mind every day. That God is the all-good. The belief that in God the all-good is available, and the belief in the Spirit as the one substance and the one cause, and the belief in God as all in all. The belief in God is all in all, and that includes that part of God within each and every one of us, that Christ within us, that incarnation of God's Spirit and intelligence and power within us, that likeness of God that we read about in the Holy Scriptures. In the ancient Scriptures, we read that we're created in the image and the likeness of God. In other words, God intelligence has clothed our spirit in human form, but has clothed our spirit in human form, but we still have the nature of God because we are a part of God. We're a part of life. Nobody denies that we're not a part of life. And so as we take and loose from our mind all those old ideas that hold us in bondage to the half-truth and the near-truth and the untruth, and we start realizing a greater freedom because our mind becomes clear. Our mind becomes clear of all the negativity, all the stuff that holds us back to those things from the past. Let's go back to those words from the book of Numbers and the Holy Scriptures. These are wonderful words. The Lord is slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but he will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations. So when we look at that as the law of mind, and we realize it's the law of our mind that's controlling what it is that we believe and what it is that we're thinking and what it is that we carry forth into the future, we realize that the law of our mind determines how much of this frustration that we bring into our lives is associated with guilt, and how much do we teach our children, and then our children's children will be taught the same thing. So it's up to us to clear our mind of it, to hold in our mind that those greater things still that will give us that idea of really, really enjoying life, being free to feel the joy of life every day. You know, life is a gift. It's not a test. But so many times people go around feeling tested, and people make all kinds of drama out of some of the silliest, most inane things. And it's almost like the world is governed by the drama rather than by the intelligence that God is. But we know that the intelligence of God is always available, always seeking to give us more, give us the greater, give us that opportunity to realize that something more of the Spirit, of a greater sense of happiness and joy and peace and harmony and beauty, all those things, and of love. So we know that's the truth. So we must clear our mind of all the things that are unlike that, unlike the nature of God, unlike the nature of good, so that our mind can be filled with the things of the Spirit. Let's look at some more wisdom from the great Dr. Joseph Murphy. He writes, many people are full of guilt because they accept as right that which is actually wrong. Many people are full of guilt because they accept as right that which is actually wrong. God condemns no one. God has already forgiven you. Forgive yourself. Change your thought and keep it changed. Think on whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are noble, and whatsoever things are of good report. Think from the standpoint of the golden rule and the law of love. Would you think of disobeying the principles of chemistry, of physics, of mathematics, and engineering? Would you build a wheel off-center? Are you believing in antiquated, dead, grotesque, ignorant superstitions and prejudices in the name of religious beliefs, or have you made a serious inquiry into the workings of your subconscious and conscious mind? The modern scientist has to conform to natural law. He cannot change it. Your religion must also conform to natural law. The result is conscience with knowing. The law of life is the law of health. The law of life is a law of happiness and peace and order. The law of life is a law of beauty and right action and abundance. And divine order is heaven's first law. Divine order is heaven's first law. So we know that divine order is for us to look to God first. That's why Jesus said, look up, look up. You're not looking up to God, you're just looking away from the material, away from the physical, away from the problems, away from the past, away from all those things that bring in the negative thoughts of guilt or shame or blame or any of that stuff into your mind, and letting it be cleared up. So look away from the things of the world, look up with your eyes closed and see that unseen vista beyond anything that the human mind can conceive, and realize that there's a power that's greater than we are, that's always seeking to express through us, give to us, that glorious life, that joyful life, the good life, the abundant life, and the wonderful life. Let's look at these words from the book of Isaiah. This is from Isaiah 43:18. Isaiah 43:18. Remember you not the former things, neither consider things of old. Remember you not the former things, neither consider the things of old. And how do we do that? We do that through prayer. When prayer removes distrust and doubt and enters the field of mental certainty, it becomes faith, and the universe is built on faith. And the universe is built on faith, and our own individual life experiences are built on faith. So we must ask ourselves, what is it that I'm believing? What is it that I'm believing? Because each and every one of us is an outlet to God and an inlet to God. In other words, we're always expressing the life and the energy, the intelligence and the power of God to the level that we are aware that we are, and to the level that we allow ourselves to eliminate all the negative things from our mind, all the iniquities of the past, and let our mind be clear and our mind be free to accept the greater things. And let's continue on with to the book of Philippians. Forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth into those things which are before, press toward the mark for the prize, and enter into the glorious liberty of the children of God, and enter into the glorious liberty of the children of God. So we know the most important two words in this message today is to forgive yourself, for no one else can, not even God or Jesus or Buddha or Krishna or those who love us dearly, no one but ourselves. And we forgive ourselves by giving up the patterns of guilt and giving our mind that which elevates our thoughts, our ideas, our spirit, and our soul to be free, to feel joy and to live for this moment and the moments to come, guilt-free and unhindered by anything that we have experienced in the past. So let us practice daily, the loving kindness that is infinitely available to us from within our own soul, and realize as we do that God shall respond to us by corresponding to this loving kindness, by filling our heart and soul with joy today and always. So let's go back to those words from the book of Numbers and just get this into our mind. The Lord, that is the law of mind, the law of the Spirit, is slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, forgiving iniquity and transgression. But it will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations. In other words, God will always give to us what we believe to be true for us, and that we believe that guilt is something that's real, guilt is something that is a part of us that we can't eliminate from our mind, and it will stay in our mind. God will not take anything away from us that we believe to be true about us. So it's up to us to understand this, that God is always giving us what we believe to be true for us, whether it's of a negative nature or whether it's of a positive nature, whether it's of the good or whether it's of what we call the evil, that is, God upside down, good upside down, or live spelled backwards, or that which diminishes good. And let's remember those words of Isaiah, remember you not the former things, neither consider things of old. And let go of that idea of karma. Let go of that idea that somehow we have to face a punishment, or we have to face a lack or a limitation because of something that happened in our experience or in the experiences of our families or whatever it may be, or even in our world. Realize that life is a mirror, and we'll reflect back to the thinker what we think into it. but also realize that we're not the only one looking into the mirror. So we must be in the world but not of the world, and eliminate those ideas, those man-made ideas that hold us in bondage to something from the world, to a power in the world, to the things of the past, and realize with Jesus that I and the Father, that is, I and the Spirit, are one. I and the Spirit are one. That God is the life of me, the breath of me, the joy of me, the happiness of me, the love of me. God is the allness of me, and I am a part of God. And just allow ourselves to accept this as the truth for us. So let us practice daily the loving kindness that is infinitely available to us from within our own heart, our own soul, our own mind, and realize as we do that the infinite Spirit, which is God, shall respond to us by corresponding to this loving kindness, this thoughts of good and more good, by filling our heart and our soul every day with the joy that makes us so grateful to be alive. And so as we are free of guilt, we're free to live, free to be, free to have, free to do whatever it may be that God is desiring through us, for us. And so it is, amen. And so it is, amen. So once again, I want to thank you.